Have you ever heard of a civilization that was just as old as ancient Egypt, just as grand as Mesopotamia, but way, way more mysterious? Well, we're talking about the Indus Valley Civilization. They were one of the world's first great urban cultures, thriving over 4,000 years ago, and then they just sort of vanished. So today, let's dive into this incredible archaeological cold case.
What they left behind is just stunning. These perfectly engineered cities spread all across what is now Pakistan and India. But what's missing is almost more important than what's there. You won't find any giant pyramids, no massive statues of all-powerful kings, and here's the real kicker, no texts we can actually read. It's like they left behind a ghost town of clues.
So what do? Well, we become detectives. We have to treat every single brick, every drain pipe, and every tiny carved seal as a piece of this gigantic puzzle. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to investigate the key characteristics of this civilization and treat each one like a clue to figuring out who these people really were. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at their urban blueprint, how they literally built their world. Then, we'll take a peek inside their homes to get a feel for their social life. After that, we'll check out the economy that powered this whole operation. And finally, we'll face the biggest mystery of them all, their unreadable secret. Okay, let's get right into our first set of clues. You can find them in the very bones of their cities. And let me tell you, the way they built things reveals a society that was absolutely built on order and incredible planning. The first thing that just blows you away is the organization. I mean, their major cities, like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, weren't just a chaotic jumble of buildings. Nope, they were laid out on a precise grid, almost like a modern city block. And that doesn't happen by accident, right? That implies some kind of central authority, or at least a deeply ingrained culture of discipline and looking ahead.
And get this wasn't just a one-time thing. This exact same grid-based planning shows up across a massive territory. We're talking an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. That kind of uniformity, across hundreds and hundreds of miles, points to a powerful, super integrated society that could coordinate huge projects on an unbelievable scale.
Okay, so if the grid plan is impressive, their plumbing it's revolutionary. Seriously, we're talking about a civilization from 2500 BCE, where pretty much every single house had a bathroom, and that bathroom was connected to a citywide, covered sewer system. That's a level of public works that most of the world wouldn't see for thousands of years. This obsession with infrastructure tells us something really important about their values. This wasn't for show. It was all about public health. It suggests a society with incredibly skilled engineers, organized city managers, and a collective focus on cleanliness and just, well, being for everybody. And it gets even more detailed. Even their building blocks were standardized. Every single kiln-fired brick, from one end of this huge civilization to the other, followed this exact 1:2:4 ratio. Just think about that for a second. That implies a highly regulated system of production, like a modern industrial standard. It's such a small detail, but it speaks volumes about their level of organization. Okay, so we've seen the city plan. Now, let's actually step inside those walls and hunt for clues about how people lived their daily lives. And, well, this is where the mystery really starts to deepen. Their homes were really practical and surprisingly advanced. Most are built around a central courtyard to let in light and air. Many had several floors, and like we said, private bathrooms were pretty common. They also had these large public structures, like the famous Great Bath, which probably played a big role in some kind of community-wide religious rituals or purification ceremonies. And this slide right here perfectly illustrates the central puzzle. In Egypt, you've got the pyramids. In Mesopotamia, you have these huge palaces. But in the Indus Valley? Nothing. Not a thing. No massive monuments to powerful kings, no ridiculously lavish royal tombs. This absence is striking. It forces us to think about a totally different kind of social structure. I mean, were they ruled by a council of priests or merchants, maybe? Or was their society just more equal, where individual power wasn't something you'd celebrate with giant buildings? So, without giant temples, what do they believe in? Well, the clues are small, but they're consistent. We find tons of these little female figurines, which suggests they might have worshipped a mother goddess connected to fertility. We see these seals with a figure that looks a lot like the Hindu god Shiva, and they clearly had a reverence for animals, especially the bull. It seems like their religion was a much more personal, community-based thing, focused on nature and ritual purity, not grand state-sponsored events.
So how did this massive, organized society actually support itself? What paid for all of this? Well, our third set of clues lies in the economic engine that was humming away, powering these incredible cities. Their whole economy was built on a really strong foundation. For one, they were master farmers. They grew all the staple crops, and get this, they were one of the very first civilizations in the world to cultivate cotton. They were also amazing artisans, making beautiful pottery, intricate beads, and just like with their bricks, their trade was all regulated with a sophisticated system of standardized weights and measures. Fair trade was clearly important to them. And they weren't just trading with their neighbors, oh no, their economic reach was enormous. This was not an isolated civilization. Archaeologists have found Indus seals and beads all the way over in Mesopotamia, that's modern-day Iraq. That is hard, physical evidence of a thriving international trade network, which made them major players on the ancient world stage. So we've looked at their cities, we've peeked into their homes, we've analyzed their economy. But every one of these clues leads us right to the biggest, the most frustrating, and honestly, the most important piece of the puzzle. The one clue that could unlock everything. Because here's the thing, they had a language, they wrote things down, they left us messages. There's just one little problem. We have absolutely no idea what any of it says. Their script is a complete and total enigma. You find it on thousands of these small stone seals. They usually have a beautifully carved animal on them and then a short string of these unique symbols. We've managed to identify over 400 distinct signs, but without a Rosetta Stone, without something to help us crack the code, the language they were writing in remains a total mystery. Now, the key takeaway here is that these probably aren't epic poems on long histories. The short little inscriptions on these seals likely represent things like names or job titles or maybe the goods being treated, the boring administrative details of a complex society. But unlocking even that could completely rewrite our understanding of how this civilization worked, how it was governed, and who was in charge. In the end, the Indus Valley civilization kind of remains a ghost, a beautifully structured outline of a society that we just can't fully see. Cracking their script is the key to everything. And until someone does, we're all left to wonder what secrets about their government, their beliefs, their very identity are locked away in these tiny symbols. It just leaves us with one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries.